This is the bit that people get wrong. They think that by getting a better job and by working harder, they're going to earn more money. That's a whopping big pile of BS. I've got double degrees. I didn't earn more money with it. In fact, I accumulated more debt.
So yeah, I guess, Kim, tell me a bit about your story and how you got started doing what you're doing now, and what do you do now?
I work with NLP, Neuro-linguistic Programming, so effectively helping people to change the way they think and change how they think. You see, what we have going on in our mind, whether we believe in ourselves or don't believe in ourselves, whether we think we're good enough, whether we don't think we're good enough, doesn't matter which way it is, that comes true. So many humans hold themselves back from their dreams, from their goals, from their ambitions, because of this deep underlying belief that they're not worthy, or they're not good enough, or they're not valuable, or they've got nothing to offer, whatever it is. And it's that inner chat that literally sabotages their results. So I have the capacity and ability to be able to help people transform those beliefs and change them into an empowering belief, so that you are good enough, you are worthy. And we do that through NLP courses, so practitioner courses. I also work one-on-one with clients, helping them break through their personal barriers.
That's amazing. I'd love to share 2 experiences that popped up in my mind, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
So one experience was I was working in a startup in San Francisco, and the boss and my mentor at the time, he was just super motivated person. He was always positive, always seeing the positive light in things. And it was pretty crazy. Like, I was able to just run at 100% for like 6 months straight. Even days where I didn't have any sleep, just him being there, him bringing the energy up, I was like automatically, like I had to wake up. But then after 6 months, I like crashed, I burnt out, and I was just burnt out every single week for like the next month, and I was struggling to just recover and get back to normal. So that's one situation. Another situation was when I came back to Australia and started doing my own business, I was really into affirmations, and I was reading affirmations, I was thinking positive. I always saw how everything was pretty good, and I was just constantly every day wake up, meditate, affirmations, and it forced me to like get positive and get work done. But same thing happened after 6 months of like insane productivity. I just crashed and went into this sort of bad, deep burnout where it was just like, it felt like maybe I was just forcing my state into a positive state for too long, and I didn't give myself a chance to recover. What's your thoughts on those 2 different situations that come to mind?
Yeah, ultimately what comes to mind is the fact that you're trying to do it consciously. So whenever we've got a conscious brain and an unconscious mind. So conscious mind, unconscious mind. The conscious mind is our willpower, our battery pack, if you like. It's also the part of our brain that is logical. It's the one that wants to try and filter everything for social. So that way, if a thought comes up and you go, oh, that's inappropriate, I better say it a different way. Well, that's your conscious mind filtering it, so that way it's more normal for social interaction. The thing is, that part of our brain's only about 5% of what we actually utilize. And it's, like I said, it's the battery pack, which means it runs out of steam. It's like your willpower at the start of a new year where you're all gung-ho on a New Year's resolution and it fails in a couple of days. It's like your phone, it needs charging. So if we are constantly relying on the conscious part of our brain to do the work for us, we're never going to be able to do long-term change, long-term anything, because you're trying to do it consciously. You're trying to actively seek it. Now, affirmations and all of that sort of thing are brilliant as a reinforcement to what's going on unconsciously, not as the driver. So what really needs to happen is the unconscious mind, the default part of your brain. So that's the bit that is keeping you breathing right now. That's the bit that's beating your heart right now. That's the bit that is now aware of you sitting on a chair, and it wasn't aware until I pointed it out to you. It's that part, which is the default part of our brain. So it's like the autopilot. If the autopilot and the default part of our mind are not working in congruence with our beliefs, our goals, our actions, etc., well, this is where people become disconnected, and this is where people burn out. So the underlying beliefs, the unconscious beliefs, is where it really matters. If your unconscious belief is I'm not good enough, but your conscious brain is going, I am good enough, I am good enough, I am good enough, I am good enough, well, eventually one's gonna wear out the other. And that's where burnout happens. And this is what I hear all the time with clients. Like, I was doing all the things. I was doing all the affirmations. I was doing the chanting. I was doing the meditation. I did this, I did that. And they had all the steps in place. But what they hadn't yet done was cleared out the neurological, so the nervous system attachment to those crappy beliefs. So no surprise, the crappy beliefs are running underneath the system and you're consciously trying to override it. Eventually you run out of steam. So what really needs to happen is the unconscious mind, the default, the beliefs, the behaviors, the values, all of that needs to be in alignment. So all of that needs to neurologically believe in you in order for you to then consciously top that up. So you can use affirmations, meditations, and all of the rest of it to reset, but it's got to reset to a default point that is already there. And if what's already there is negative, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or any of those things, well, affirmations can only go so far.
Now, how do you work on the unconscious mind then? How do you sort of tell the conscious mind that you are worthy, that you are awesome, that you are great?
The unconscious mind is actually the fastest thinking mind that we have. So when I used the example before to say that if a thought comes up and then you've got to filter it, well, that first thought is your unconscious mind communicating. Now, so many people ignore it. It's actually their gut instinct, their sixth sense. It's whatever it is. So many people think it's too woo-woo or it's too alternative, and they ignore it. And then they use the conscious filtering brain to do the thinking, instead of realizing that the unconscious mind has been communicating all along. That's the gut feeling. That's that little whisper. That's that vision or nudge or sound or whatever that comes quickly. Now, we can train it. And the fastest way to do it is through NLP, so Neuro-linguistic Programming, where we use language to change the way we feel, think, and see about certain things. And through our courses, there's a beautiful therapy called timeline therapy. Been around for about 40 years, not particularly well known in mainstream, but very, very effective. And what it does is allow your unconscious mind to go back into the past and clear up, get rid of all of the negative attachment to past negative events, traumas, bad emotions, stuff that's happened. We've all got stuff. The thing is, we don't need to hang on to the stuff anymore. We can let it go, and we can certainly let go to the emotional attachment that we have to that stuff. And timeline therapy does that beautifully and cleanly. And what I mean by that is it's content free. You don't have to relive the same crappy story over and over again in order to get the breakthrough. You can actually let go of the negative emotions and the neurological attachments to those events without having to relive. And that's what I love about it. It's quite different to counseling. It's quite different to traditional psychotherapies that want you to talk about the problem. The thing is, the unconscious mind is so good at being a sponge. If you keep talking about the problem, then you'll keep reliving the problem because you're creating it. So letting go of it and learning from it, taking the silver lining, so to speak, taking the lessons from that event without it being emotionally attached is by far the fastest way and safest way to be able to reprogram the unconscious mind. And then you can live via affirmations and your meditations, etc. But you've got to do the clear out work, or else you're just trying to chant on top of something that's not yet repaired.
Interesting. Now tell me about that clearing out process, because I'm pretty accepting of all my flaws, all the ups and the downs, and I sort of know my relationship with my parents. I know when I was younger, I used to seek my dad's attention, but then I sort of realized that and I switched that around where I only shared when he asked questions, and the table flipped. And, I love my dad, I love my mom. So I'm aware of that. Like, how do I know if I'm actually accepting of my sort of upbringing rather than just sort of pushing it aside and trying to force myself to think positive? I'd like to think I'm pretty accepting and I love my parents, and they've probably they didn't support me with a lot of things I did, but I understand their intention and I love them because they only cared for me. But I think they could have supported me a lot more. Am I just thinking positive, or am I truly acceptance of that?
Well, I guess that's really up to you as to how you feel it, because if you're still, the way I see it is, if you're going to blame your parents for the bad parts of your life, you've got to blame them for the good bits too. We are who we are because of our upbringing, because of our environment, because of our teachers, guides, friends, circles, whatever it is. We are who we are because of that. And when we can accept that our parents did the best they could with the resources they had, then we start letting go of the blame game and the need for justification, the need for acceptance, the need for any of it. When you can just look at your past and go, my past was my past. That's cool. There's no attachment, like there's no negative attachment. There's none of that ickiness. It's just a case of my past is my past. It is what it is, and it has helped create who I am today. We can accept that lovingly and graciously and appreciate that everything that's happened in our past has brought us to where we are today. And it's because of our decisions based on what happened is what creates our today. So we can go on blaming people forever and a day. Because of them, I'm like this. Because of them, I'm like that. Or we can take full responsibility for our own lives. And it's a concept called cause and effect within the NLP lingo. And it means that we have taken full acceptance and responsibility for our role in the whole thing. And when you get to that point where you take full responsibility, not blame, but full responsibility for our role in the whole thing, there's a calm about it, because you stop pointing the finger, you stop blaming, you stop making excuses for why you have or have not yet made it to where you want to make it. Because you've only got to look at some of the biggest influencers and role models on the planet. Most of them had horrible upbringings, yet they've made something good of their life. So they could have chosen to stay in victim mode and go, my parents suck, so therefore I'm going to suck too. Or they could say, well, my parents sucked, and because of that, I'm going to be a better human. So it just comes to a point where ultimately you need to thank your past or acknowledge your past for what it is. It is what it is, and it got you to where you are. And the thing is, there are very few parents out there that know how to love us unconditionally and accept us for who we are, because we've come from generations where it was very judgy. So they haven't yet learnt the skills to love and accept themselves. So therefore they project to us their lack of love and acceptance of themselves, and that's what we feel. So for us to make that breakthrough, it's about, in spite of that, because of that, regardless of that, that's how we take full ownership of our own lives and love and accept ourselves for who we are, all the flaws attached. Because ultimately, all of us have got a past, all of us have got a history, and it's the flaws that make us who we are. They're not a negative. They've taught us something, they've shown us something, they've given us the opportunity to learn something or become better. If we had a smooth sailing past and if everything was handed to us on a golden platter every day, who would we become? We would never have to learn anything. We would never have to overcome something. We'd never have to dig ourselves out of a hole. We'd never have to grow. So ultimately, all of those past experiences have brought you to where you are today. And yes, there are some people that see the silver lining in everything, and there are some people that see negative Nancy in everything. There's always going to be those people. And you can have two people from the same family with the exact same upbringing and have two very different adults. It's all in the way they choose to live their lives.
Interesting. And then with all those examples, like, I love my parents, I see the difference, I see what they could have done better, I love them for that. There's probably things when I interact with them where I do feel like they are a bit more pessimistic, more conservative, more worried, and they're sort of doing that out of care and love for me, obviously, and that's sort of based on their worldview. But it makes it hard to connect. Like, even if I be honest, like, Mum, like, when you say that, I feel it's a bit negative, but my mum is just being herself.
Yes.
But then as a result, with two different people, and we're sort of growing apart. Is that normal?
It can be very normal, because if you consider the generation that I know, particularly my mum and dad are post-war babies. So they came from a time where there was a lot of lack. There was still a lot of fear. There was still a lot of recession. There was still a lot of so little had to go around so much. So it's no surprise their view of the world is less positive than what you or I might choose to do. They didn't have opportunity and abundance and freedom and all those other things that are pretty normal catchphrases these days. So it's no surprise they've come from a more conservative viewpoint. And sometimes I can understand why it would be harder for them to see the bright light when all they've known is a darker version of what we've been exposed to. Now, there are people out there that are just negative Nancy's. That's just who their demeanor is. And then there's other people that are positive regardless of what happens. So this is also partly just personality choices. Now, are we meant to absolutely get along with our parents 24/7? Probably not. Have we got the opportunity to learn how to grow with them and still be somewhat aligned with them? Well, sure. It doesn't mean they have to be our best friends, and it doesn't mean we need to change who we are to fit in with them. It's more about accepting that that is who they are, that they're doing the best they can with the resources they've got. And their resources could be way more limited than ours, especially emotionally, because emotional intelligence was not taught back then. They didn't have access to what we have access to now. They didn't have internet. They only had the news, and the news would broadcast what the news broadcasts, and it's a one-way narrative in that context. So how would they think or see or do anything positive necessarily? They'd have to choose that. And while sometimes choosing to be positive, especially if the environment is not, can be a heck of a load of willpower, and we know that that runs out. So in order to sort of stay aligned with your parents, it's just a case of being who you are and accepting their quirks, accepting their unique aspects as well as they accept yours.
That's super cool, yeah, because I do notice that when I sort of distance myself and sort of do my own thing, and I'm sort of more introverted, I enjoy spending time on my own, I am sort of usually like the best version of myself. And when I do spend time with my parents, I am sort of suppressing certain things. I'm holding little things back. If I try to be honest, it doesn't really work out. So now I'm no longer trying to be honest. I'm taking a step back from who I am. So I sort of tell mum, like, hey, like, you know, I'm growing apart. You know, there's a good chance that we're probably only gonna have like a family outing every 6 months. And obviously I see that hurts her, you know, that she wants to spend time with her son. But then from me, it's not healthy for me to spend every day with her. So I'm sort of at this sort of weird crossroads. And I think the solution is just to be more honest, spend time when I can, but then try to spend time on my own. It's this weird juggling balance, I guess. What's your thoughts?
Definitely about finding the balance. So having the boundaries, understanding what your needs are, understanding what her needs are, and then trying to find somewhere in the middle that will at least suit you both to some degree. Because if you're two very different people and then when you come together, the energy is not great, then small amounts of time is ideal. Let's just go for a coffee once a month, mum. And in a neutral place where there are other distractions or entertainment or something like that, you know, it's up to you how you navigate it. But ultimately, you've got to feed yourself first. If you don't feed your own cup, then you're lying to yourself. You're being completely inauthentic, and it's no surprise it's an energy drainer. However, we do want to at least spend some time and energy around our parents because, you know, not everyone's got forever. But it's about being able to find the way that suits you to be able to fit in with what she is about and what she offers and all of that. And if that means it's a phone call instead of physical face-to-face, then make it a phone call, do a FaceTime, whatever it is. And it can be in small, manageable chunks, so that way the energy is not depleted. So, yeah, and I certainly feel like being authentic is the way to go. You know, even in my journey, My parents are super conservative and they hate swearing, and I'm a swearer. So I found that as I've gone along, the more I just speak in my natural tongue is actually just really balanced for me. It feels good for me. And if it makes my mother cringe, I can get over that, because that's her issue, not mine. For me, that resonates with me. The language resonates with me, and I only swear if I'm passionate. Don't just drop the F-bomb left, right, and center. It's not like that at all. It's just the fact that when I'm passionate, words will come out, and I'm not going to apologize for that, because that's clearly who I am and what I'm about. I've just stopped reacting to her reaction. She's just going to have to get over it. If I'm going to use my natural energy around her and be who I am, she's going to have to deal with that, not me. I used to take it on a bit too much, and I used to worry about what she would think, and I'd change the way I speak. And of course, it becomes uncomfortable. It becomes really uncomfortable when you have to literally change who you are to fit in with someone else. And ultimately, no one should have to change who they are to fit in with anybody. You are who you are. You're perfectly unique the way you are. And that doesn't mean you'll gel with everybody, but it means being who you are most of the time, and then others will just have to fit in with you. And if that means shorter timeframes together, so be it.
That's super cool. One thing that you brought that triggered something was energy. Like, it does feel like something I've been dealing with over the last 1 or 2 years is I'm constantly having to refill my cup. Like, after a long day of work, a bunch of meetings, podcasts, like I feel completely drained. And then I thought, these are two different hypotheses that I have, and I'd love to get your thoughts. One, maybe just like muscles, there's like a brain muscle that you can work on increasing your battery. The second thing, which sort of really aligns with what you said earlier, I was talking with a mentor, and I was telling her how like I'm always getting pretty exhausted, and when I talk to people, even if I'm talking about things I enjoy about and I'm passionate about, I still feel drained after the conversation, even though it's so fun. And then she brought light to the fact that she notices that I talk and think from my brain. I'm really head heavy. And it's sort of what you said, how the conscious mind is only 5%, and how she was telling me how I should be talking more from my heart, and sort of what you said about the unconscious mind. So I guess mixing these two in, I guess I have to work more on being and talking from my heart, and that would have the energy drain less. But the cup is a thing where it can go to zero even if you're talking from your heart.
Absolutely. There's a couple of different elements there. Firstly is how to fill the cup and keep it full. And the secondly is how to protect it. So as a healthcare worker, I had to learn the hard way. I burnt out in my first year of practice because one thing they don't teach you at uni is how to manage emotions and emotional intelligence. So as a very empathetic person in the healthcare space, give to the point that there's nothing left in your bone dry. And by the end of the first year, burnout kicked in emotionally and physically. And I learned pretty quickly from a mentor who I discussed this with, and he's like, no, you need to protect your own energy. You've only got so much to give, so you've got to choose who you give it to. And it just made such sense. So he taught me about creating an energetic barrier. So, if you follow any of the chakras or you're interested in any of that sort of stuff, it's about using, creating that sort of imaginary, energetic bubble around yourself. I personally, if you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz from some time ago, and Glinda, the good witch, arrives in her bubble. Well, when I'm treating people, I literally imagine myself inside my bubble, especially if I have what I call an energy vampire on the table. So if I'm working with someone who is such a sucker of my energy, my bubble goes up. It's on. I've got this force field shield around me, and my energy is safe inside that. I can still do my work, but I do not give for this energy sucker. Now, not everybody's like that, and you can pretty much judge who's going to suck the life out of you and who isn't. So this is where you need to fill your cup every day, which is really important. And that's where your gratitudes and your meditations and your daily walks and eating good foods and making sure you get enough sleep and getting off your devices and all of that sort of thing contributes to filling your cup. But even when your cup is full, you've got to protect it. And you've got to protect it from those people who want to suck the life out of it. So this is a case of coming from your heart space rather than just your head. And I do this with my clients a lot in the context of sit heavy for a moment, put your hands on your heart. Tell me what your heart says. And it helps block out the cognitive awareness in your brain because you're speaking to your heart, your unconscious mind, trying to get logic and the thinking brain out of the way, because more often than not, it's trying to filter what you're thinking to go, ooh, what does she want me to say? And that's the thing. It's not about what does she want me to say? It's about what are you actually saying? So when you tap into your heart space and you lead from your heart, it's a give-take of energy. Have you ever heard, like rock stars or performers or singers or something like that say they get so much energy on the stage, even though they're giving, it's because they're also receiving. The energy exchange with the audience is huge in the context of there's thousands of faces giving and only one voice giving the other way. So the energy exchange is brilliant. That's why people end up pumped after they've done a full repertoire. Well, even though what they were doing was physically demanding, what they received from it was even more. It filled their cup because it brought them fulfillment and joy and gratitude. And it was that energy. It's all about that energy. So for you, if you find that, in particular, you said you were introverted. So of course, the way you would recharge is in a more silent, alone type fashion, which is perfectly fine because that's what works for you. You might like to read a book or listen to some music or just do some meditation or pat the cat or whatever it is, and that works for you. But there are some people that need to go out and party to recharge, and that works for them because they're an extroverted type personality and they get their energy from other people. So whoever you are is perfectly fine for you. You've just got to work out what fills your cup. Then work out how to protect it, whether it's this force field, whether it's this idea that you're just keeping more for you than you are for someone else. When you give, it's okay to give, but you don't need to give everything. You can give the amount it needs in order for the message to get across, in order for the person you're communicating with to really fully understand what it is you're saying, but not giving all of you. Just giving what's necessary for the message and not everything, because you deserve your cup first.
That's super cool, Kim. So like, for example, right now, as you're talking about a topic that you're super passionate about, something that you enjoy and can really feel your energy, within your bubble, is energy being depleted? And then if not, does that mean you can just do this forever? And the amount of energy this podcast for the last 30 minutes, you can do that for hours? Or is there a limit?
Well, my courses run for 7 days and 14 days. So I'm quite used to delivering in a long-term environment. So, the NLP Practitioner Course goes for 7 days, and each of those days is about 7 or 8 hours of talking. So I'm quite used to delivering higher energy teachings.
What type of energy is that? Is it like a physical or more of a mental energy while you're talking and sharing all this? What type of energy is being used?
Definitely mental and emotional. Physical helps because, of course, being able to sit strong and hold your diaphragm and all of that helps. But it's more an emotional. The thing is, I love what I talk about. I found my jam and it lights me up, and that's why you can feel it from me. So we're coming through a screen, but you can feel it from me based on how I sound, how I look, any gestures I'm making, etc. So you already get that energy. And even as this goes into a podcast, which is audio only, the audience will still get the energy from me. They'll feel it from what I'm expressing. When you're talking about a topic you love, you pretty much can talk about it all day. That doesn't mean you don't need a break. Of course you need a break. And that doesn't mean it's not draining at some point. But providing the audience is receiving and loving it and giving you the visuals that they got the ahas happening. Like, I love that when you see the pennies drop in the students where they go, oh my God, that makes so much sense. That gives back to me. That really enables me to go, yes, this is landing and what I'm doing counts. And I think you'll find that, that people who do give off a lot of energy, it's because they love what they do. So it's not necessarily draining. It's a lot of energy giving, but it's not draining necessarily, because it's that beautiful two-way street. With the amount of energy I'm giving, I'm also receiving, because I know that the ahas and the penny drops are happening, and I go, yes, it's really worth it.
That's super cool, because I'm sort of balancing, because last year I sort of really learned how to be an amazing listener. I learned how to ask great questions, really be intrigued, super curious, and sort of put on a smile and show this expression, but then I'll just be drained so quickly. And then I've sort of taken a more of a sort of backseat, sort of listening from the heart. I'm not forcing a smile all the time. My tone is a bit down. And now my energy drain is much less.
That's it.
So I guess 2 questions. How do you get your energy drainage down? And 2, is it possible to increase that battery?
Oh, absolutely possible to increase the battery. That's a learned and practice thing. It's just like throwing a ball. You didn't do it perfectly the first time. You had to learn the skills, and you had to break down the skills. So you can certainly increase the battery. I guess the most important part of the whole thing is, what audience are your ears participating in? So it's great to be an active listener, but if you're listening to something that's absolutely boring as batshit, you're going to be drained really quickly, because it's not kept your attention for anything other than you trying to be polite. But if your attention is kept because what the speaker is saying is actually of interest to you, it's so easy to listen. You don't have to try. You're in it. You'll notice that you'll probably sit forward a little bit more, even though you might still be in your heart space. You're just receiving it easily. Whereas if someone is talking about a topic that you have zero interest in, you've got to almost pinch yourself to stay awake. So this is where the energy difference is huge. If you've been to a seminar or a concert or something that was just 100% your jam, firstly, you would have noticed the time went really, really quickly, and you took a lot in. Then if you spent the exact amount of time at a seminar that bored you stupid, the time would have gone forever. You'd be sleepy. How much did you take in? About 2%? Who were the speakers? Can't remember. But it's got to interest you. So it's great to be an active listener, but an active listener of what? Let's be selective as to what you're actually wanting to listen to. And I know the speakers that you would bring on your show, you've chosen. So of course you would have some interest in the topics that they're going to speak about, or the person that is doing the speaking. So listening to that is going to be way easier. But if you brought on some random that you knew nothing about and told them to speak about goldfish, you may or may not care about that topic, and therefore may not even listen. So therefore the energy drain on that is huge. And I don't think it would even be worth your time or effort trying to train the battery of being better at that. Why? You don't want to be better at listening to something that bores you. You want to be better at maintaining and listening to something that actually excites you. How can you absorb that? And even within NLP, we talk about something called learning state. Now, learning state is where you allow all of your senses to pull in the information, not just your ears. Because ultimately, everyone has a different representational system. And if you're highly visual, but you're supposed to take in information that is only auditory, like a podcast, you may miss a chunk of it because you're trying to listen through your ears that are not your preferred method of receival. So with the learner's state, it's about being able to soften in your chair, not stare at the person that's presenting, but soften in your chair and let your peripheral vision go. So 180-degree vision where you can actually see your hands at the side of your head, soft gaze. Now, when you're at soft gaze, and this works really well for children in classrooms too, when you're doing soft gaze, it means that your heart rate has now dropped. You're not tunnel visioning with your eyes. So whilst you might be staring at the teacher, or you might be staring at me on the screen, or whatever it is, If you let your gaze be soft and into peripheral vision, you'll actually be taking in more from your ears, from your kinesthetic, from your eyes, from the whole lot. And the information you retain is far higher a percentage than if you were just staring really hard at who was speaking to you. So that's learner state. Really let your softness happen, where your peripheral vision is allowed to take over. It means your ears will work better, your eyes will work better, and the feelings you connect to what's being said will also help glue it all together.
Yeah, that's super cool, because late last year, I tried this thing called Transcendental Meditation, where the instructor was like, rest your shoulders, rest your cheeks, rest your eyebrows, and all of a sudden I was like resting these parts of my face that never been rested. Yeah. And I was like, wow, when I'm listening and I'm trying to be curious, my eyes are tense, my cheeks and everything's sort of up to show an expression to really make the person want to talk more, but then it drains energy. And what you shared was like, wow, yeah.
And it drains energy from you as a listener, which means you fatigue quicker, meaning that us as speakers are now talking to empty people. There's nothing left in the tank. Whereas if you sat back, just enjoyed the ride, you're going to hear more anyway. You're going to hear more because you're relaxed. You're going to hear more because you're softer. You're going to hear more because your heart space is listening, not just your eyes. Because that's the thing, right? We've been taught in school, sit up tall and look at the person speaking to you and stare them down. That's exam mode. You can't learn from there, not well. That's fight and flight mode. That's not helpful. Whereas if you soften your gaze, you're still looking at them, but you're gazing at them as opposed to staring them down. How much more enjoyable is it? It's so much softer in your body. And now you can listen for hours because there's no fatigue in your posture. There's no fatigue in your eyes straining to listen. Yeah.
That's so cool.
You're now using your ears for listening instead of your eyes, which means you're actually taking in more in a really comfortable environment. So when you're, like you said, it feels like you're a little bit, a little bit dazed, a little bit high, a little bit amazing. That's perfect, because that's a beautiful hypnotic state, which means your body's relaxed. It'll take on so much more because there's no stress in the system. There's no fight and flight happening. So you'll take on even more. Now, providing you don't doze off, because that's the next stage of relaxation, providing you don't doze off and you stay present, you'll take in so much more. And sometimes just a little wiggle of the toes is enough to just make sure the system's still listening. Oh yeah, okay, I'm still here. But you're soft and you're gentle, and you'll end up with a natural smile on your face, like a humble appreciation, and you'll actually be more engaged because you're not staring at the speaker. So much easier for you and so much easier for the person speaking.
And then Kim, I'm super curious, how did you get to where you are now? Because with all these questions I'm asking, I've always felt really alone, because when I'll talk about these things, people wouldn't connect. They'd be like, are you crazy, Andy? What are you talking about, energy? I don't know, I just hang out with people. I don't think about that. You're overthinking. That's something I get a lot. Dude, Andy, I think you're just overthinking things. But then, I think about these things and I'm able to ask all these questions, and you're able to just relate with everything I say. And I got to this place because I guess I didn't enjoy the pain of being tired, exhausted, and I would think of solutions to these problems and hypotheses why I'm feeling the way I am. But how did you get to where you are, Kim?
Trying many things, I guess. So I'm an osteopath by trade, which is a master of health science. So there's a good mix of traditional medicine versus alternative therapies, etc. It's hands-on. But what I found the missing piece of the puzzle was the emotional intelligence side of things. So the emotional connection to pain, the emotional connection to when mobility is lacking, the emotional connection to chronic disease. To me, there's a massive gap there. And whilst psychology was taught at uni, there was none of this emotional stuff. So it's just through my exploration and being in the right place at the right time really helps too. And I think the universe delivers what you need at the right time for when you're ready for it. when I was starting to get frustrated with how the osteo model was working, or in my belief, not working well enough, I knew that there was more out there, and I was presented with NLP. It just came up in my world. And then I explored it. You know, I went to a practitioner course, could not believe what I'd learnt within a week. Like, I'd learnt more in a week than I did in 5 years at uni when it came to emotional intelligence. It was like, wow. And I knew that this was my path. The way I knew is because it felt right. So when I say that energy is everything, you know when something, somebody, some place feels right for you. There's an ease about the connection. You feel understood. You feel like you're not being judged. It's just easy. And easy in the context that you can feel grounded, you can feel safe and secure in who you are, not have to put on a facade and all of those things. I really found that in the NLP world. And the more NLP people I went around, the more people that became my connections, just the easier it got, because it's all about proximity, who you spend your time with. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you spend the most time with negative Nancy's, well, it's no surprise your energy level is going to be pulled down to that level. If you spend the most time with people who lift you up and encourage you and want to be part of your team, then it's no surprise you'll have easy energy about you and you'll want to spend more time with those people. So, you know, I learned over the years that there needed to be a lot more of this holistic side of teaching, of therapy, of all of that, because we're such unique beings and each of us needs something different. We all want and need something different. We're not one size fits all. So it was very important for me to really learn more and more about how the emotions connect to pain, how the emotions connect to stress, how the emotions connect to financial success. Like, there is so much connection between your emotional connection to stuff, your emotional intelligence, the way you feel, and what successes or lack thereof you have in your life. If you're in debt emotionally, you're always going to stay in debt until you change how you feel about that emotionally. You can't change your current financial situation with the same mindset that got you in the problem in the first place. You've got to change the way you think. And it's the way you think, not what to think, the way you think. It's the how. And this is what NLP does so differently. It's not about rote learning a pile of facts and figures and regurgitating it onto an exam like it is at high school or uni. That's all about, here's the knowledge we want you to learn, go rote learn it, and then regurgitate it to us later. There is no practical how to do the thinking. So NLP was such a blessing for me to be able to teach me how to think. So become resourceful, meaning that if anything came up that was a challenge, I would have the ability to be able to think my way through the solution. And that was a game changer for me because, you know, when I struggled for years with financial lack, I was never going to get myself out of that by applying the same principles I'd learned that had got me in that position in the first place. And this is the bit that people get wrong. They think that by getting a better job and by working harder, they're going to earn more money. That's a whopping big pile of BS. I've got double degrees. I didn't earn more money with it. In fact, I accumulated more debt, because you've got to invest heavily into very expensive courses to get the outcome of a title. But the title doesn't equal money. The title equals that, a title, which means nothing if you haven't yet got the emotional intelligence or the belief system that you are worthy of money, that you are good enough for money, and that you can get rid of your parents' belief of money doesn't grow on trees, or waste not, want not, or my all-time favorite, work hard to earn a good living. So because we're programmed with these beliefs, we go on in our life thinking that that's the way to get ahead. And it's no surprise burnout's at its highest level ever, because people are working their butts off for more debt.
Interesting. Yeah, like I really wanted to sort of ask how people should think about debt, but maybe it's better if I sort of share a personal example where, like, right over the last 1 or 2 years, I've sort of been stuck at this sort of multi 6-figure range, and I've been really craving and wanting to hit the 7-figure range. Now, I obviously saw myself getting burnt out where I was just pushing for this goal with not too much meaning. And currently at the moment, I'm sort of, embracing the journey, really happy with what I have right now. I know where I want to get to, but I don't have to sprint towards that. I'm also accepting that the reason why I'm not making 7 figures is because I'm not ready for that yet. If I had all the skill sets and I had all the mindset, I would be worth 7 figures. So it's I just have to work on myself. Is that the right way I should go about it?
It's a very good way forward, because ultimately, if you keep repeating the same things that you've been doing to get yourself to where you are today, you're going to stay where you are today, because all of those thoughts, behaviors, decisions, and actions led you to where you are today, which is a good place. You're in a good place. But in order for you to take that next step up, something has to shift. And for most people, it is simply the belief in themselves that they are worthy of that. And if you've had a fair few childhood timeframes where people have told you, oh, don't expect that, or you're not good enough for that, or I can't afford to buy you that, and you've heard all of that money, wealth, connection, value sort of conversations, then it's no surprise your unconscious mind, even from a little boy, is still at play to some degree, going, oh, be careful, don't ask for too much, you might offend, or whatever it is. So ultimately, the question I love asking myself, and this is how I made significant shift in my financial status, was I asked myself the question, what would happen if? And then I let my mind answer that. So what would happen if I had $1 million? What would happen if all the good people in the world had so much money? What would happen if we could put NLP in the schools and let all of those beautiful young children learn the belief systems really early before they become screwed up adults? What would happen if we could really make a difference just by collectively coming together energetically? So it's just opening up those expansive questions. And you can do it for yourself every day as part of your meditations. And it doesn't even need to be a meditation. It's just, it can be a journal session. It can be just sit at the beach and hum for a little bit to go, what would happen if I got everything I ever wanted? It's inductive thinking, which means you think bigger than what you've allowed you to think before, because so many people think deductively. They think inside the box instead of allowing themselves to go outside the box and actually make a neurological change in the way they think. Because if you keep thinking the same thoughts, you're going to get the same outcomes.
That's so freaking amazing, because you sort of end up thinking bigger and coming up with solutions to your problem. Because as you're saying that, I was like, okay, what would I do if I had $1 million? Mm-hmm. I don't know, I'd hire more developers, start taking steps towards building, AI learning, just get more developers, bring someone in-house that can act as a CTO, because now I have the money. And then what would I do if I had $1 billion? And then all of a sudden, like, I'm sort of giving the answers to what I need to do in order to get to those goals. So this is, you're right, super amazing.
Empowering questions make a big difference to how you think. It's the how you think that makes all the difference. That's when your unconscious mind already has all the answers. You just haven't yet been listening.
One thing I really wanted to ask was the mind and your health, because I've always been like a positive person, and as a result, I don't get sick too much. And when I do get sick, I don't really think about the sickness. As a result, I recover pretty fastly. And from my uncle's perspective, I'm like this go-lucky person that everything sort of just worked out, but I'm just sort of I don't really talk about the downs, and I sort of just cruise through it, to a point where I'm like a bit too optimistic, where I'm like, if I get cancer, maybe I can just be positive, try like starve out the cancer, go to Mexico, try some different alternative things and not do chemo. But then he shared something that was pretty interesting, and I've related to it, where it's like the downside of being too optimistic is, what if you try everything and you don't cure the problem you have? It's just going to crush you. Like, what if I keep trying to become a billionaire and that doesn't happen? That's just going to crush me. Like, is there a limit? Can mindset cure cancer? What's your thoughts, Kim?
Well, I'd never want to suggest that that is a yes, because ultimately no one can promise anything. Medicine can't promise anything. So, why should alternative promise it? The thing is, what you choose to believe in most instances are manifested. So if you choose to believe in being healthy, being healthful, and knowing that your body has a beautiful innate blueprint for perfect health, then it's about being able to tap into that blueprint as often as possible. Now, your uncle has a great point. However, he's already bringing in the possibility of negative before the diagnosis has even happened. And this is where so many people get it wrong. They already bring into their body the belief that the problem could be there before they've brought into the belief that the solution could be there. Now, I'm not saying the mind will cure anything. I'm saying that the body has the ability to repair itself. If you cut yourself today, it would be healed in a few days. You go for a haircut, your hair grows back. Yeah, your body has the ability to repair itself. You break a bone. Sure, you might go get medical treatment to put it in a cast so it can set neatly, but it's the body that does the healing, not the medical treatment. The treatment was only putting the environment in place for the bone to heal neatly. It didn't speed up the situation, the body did that. So your body already has the ability to heal so much of what goes in it. You get a cold, you'll recover. You get a flu, you'll recover. Might take a few more days. The thing is, everyone is susceptible to illness at some point in their time. We're all going to get a cold and flu at some point in our time. Now, does the cold and flu wipe you out for 3 weeks because you're such a negative Nancy and you're going, oh my God, I'm so sick, and all the rest of it? Or is it a case of, okay, I've got a bit of allergy. I'm going to go sit out in the sunshine and I'm going to squeeze fresh orange juice and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to get plenty of sleep and I'm going to stay off social media and I'm going to do all these beautiful things to bring my energy as high as I can manage in this situation, and I'm going to heal as quick as I can. Now, having a great mindset, there are many, many, many studies out there that do link the ability of positive thinking to positive outcomes. There are many studies of that. Just like there are many studies of negative thinking will actually bring in negative outcomes. And there's even a study that they've done where they've had glasses of water, just normal everyday water, glasses of water, and the difference in the microscopic change of that water based on how you talk to it. Now, if you talk to water in a very nasty, aggressive way, under the microscope, those individual little molecules look horrendous, like sharp, dangerous little creatures. Whereas if you talk to water nicely, it looks like beautiful snow crystals, all pretty.
Yeah, what do you think that is? I think you're going to talk about it, yeah.
Well, ultimately, it's all about the living molecule, and it's about the energy that is given to it. Yeah, just like if you talk to plants. Now, if you light a cigarette near plants or light a match near plants, plants will bend away from the fire. So there's something there in relation to the energy that you're giving it. If you're showing that plant harm, it'll bend away from it. Now, of course, it's stuck to the ground. So if you were to want to do harm to it, you could. But you can see even just in that, the plant wants to get away from the perceived harm. Now, from your body point of view, given that I'm guessing the percentage here, but about 90% of your body is water. If you can make change to water in a glass by talking to it nicely or talking to it aggressively, imagine what 90% of your body cells are doing if you constantly talk nasty to it. If you keep calling yourself an idiot, or you keep calling yourself a fool, or you keep going, God, you're an idiot. Imagine what's happening to your water cells on a daily basis. So this is where there is a potential, and look, it's well documented that there is a correlation between positive thoughts, positive beliefs, positive energy, and positive outcomes when it comes to health. Now, I'm not saying cure or anything like that, but there's definitely correlation. So if you were to treat your body in a positive mindset way when illness did strike, you would have a better chance of a better outcome than someone who was negative Nancy. Now, they've proven it many, many times when it comes to prognoses. When a doctor says you've got such and such disease and you've got 3 months to live, there are so many people out there that made that true to the day. And then there are others that go 3 months, I'm going to show you 3 years. And they set their mindset to an idea to go, nah, I'm going to beat the doctor and I'm going to go do it myself. And they've done it. There are some people out there that were given 3 months to live and they lived for 20 years. Oh, we don't know how that happened. Yeah, we don't know how that happened because some doctors are very much along the one path fits all solution where we need to head down pharmaceuticals and medicines. Other people are of the belief that more natural remedies, including good talk in your own head, can actually bring along positive solutions. Now, is it cure? No, I'm not suggesting that. But is it a better outcome? And the way I see it is, even if you're going through your toughest of days and you've been diagnosed with something bloody awful, would you prefer to spend whatever you have left of your life loving the life you have or hating the illness you have? Dis-ease in the body is caused by negative emotions. So if you can remove the negative emotions in your body, you have more chance of removing the dis-ease.
Interesting. On this topic of like energy and its sort of aura and sort of like affirmations and manifesting, like I'm a pretty logical person. When I was sort of, I've just been raised up logical. Mm-hmm. So when I sort of think of affirmations, I think it as, if you're repeating things, you sort of subconsciously start doing things that would help you towards the goals you've sort of manifested. And if you're procrastinating, you think of what you said that morning through the affirmation and you take a step back and stop procrastinating. So I sort of see how that works, and meditation and sort of visualizing energy being drawn in. I could sort of see how just like visualizing energy being drawn into your body, your sort of pores are opening up because you're sort of thinking in that way. And then as a result, you do feel recharged as a result. But how far do you take it, like Kim? Do you think like as I'm talking, I can sort of send you energy and you actually receive this actual currency? Do you think there is this aura that we walk around with? Like how far do you take it? Because
there's a lot of study on it. It's called quantum physics. So it is a thing. It is a thing. It's real. Where you can literally send me energy and I can feel it. That is a thing. It does exist. Yeah. And there's quite a few studies on it. So it's not like it's just some woo-woo. The thing is, everything is energy. Now, we do not need to be able to see it to believe it exists. Yeah. You may not understand how the sound comes out of your speaker for your ears to hear it because you can't see it, but you trust that it exists because you can hear it. Well, the same happens on the energetic plane. For me to send you love and joy and gratitude and all those things, you can feel that. And you may not be able to pinpoint how you can feel it, but there's an awareness there. Yeah. Just like if I was to cross my arms across my chest, can you feel the difference in that energy I'm giving you right now?
I can.
Like it's palpable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do feel like I can, that with close friends, there is this exchange of energy. If I was super logical, I'd say something like, it's based on your past experiences. If you see a frown, then you feel, because you've been taught that frowns equal that. Mm-hmm. And then maybe if I was less logical, I'll be like, sort of, if I'm thinking that is a positive sign, and then I'm seeing it as a positive, as a result, my mind is taking it in as a positive. And if I went really voodoo, it's like literal energy is coming into me.
It is. And if you use how you feel as your GPS, use it as your guidance system. So when things feel good, that's a yes. Go do that. When you've ever walked into a room or a party or a meeting or something like that, and you go, ooh, this room feels like, you could almost cut the air with a knife, and you go, oh, I don't want to be here. That's a feeling. There was no sign up to go avoid, avoid, avoid. There was nothing. It was a feeling. That is your gut instinct. That is your unconscious mind going, I don't want to be in this room. This room's not for me. Yeah. Whereas other rooms, you can walk in and people, whether they gesture to you or not, you feel like you're walking into an open hug. It's warm, it's opening. There's a beautiful energy of, yes, I'm welcome here. And this is right for me. Now, they're two completely different rooms. They're just rooms. But it's the people that create the energy in the room that makes the difference as to whether you feel like it's right for you in that place and whether you belong there, or whether it's not for you and you should stay clear. And it's the feeling that is guiding you. And what logical people can do, because I was one of them, very logical. What logical people can do is learn how to trust that GPS. Just listen to it a little bit more. And even if it means literally stopping, putting your hand on your heart for a moment and going, what are you trying to tell me? And just listen to that inner guidance, that intuition, because we all have it. Just some people are in tune with it and others did never know it existed because they're so in their head logically thinking through things, because that's what we're taught. We're taught to think. But if you hang around people that are a little bit more in touch with their feelings and a little bit more in touch with their GPS, they will feel into stuff. They will use their intuition. And that doesn't mean it's more woo-woo or more hippie or anything like that. It just means people have learned how to use their GPS system for a reason, their sixth sense for a reason. We have it for a reason. If you've ever felt like, oh God, someone's staring at me, and then you look around and you see someone staring at you, that sense is there for a reason. It makes you feel uncomfortable because it is an innate warning that there's potential danger and you need to check it out. Just like if you're about to cross a road, the whole reason we look left and right is because we have that innate feeling that we need to be safe. So we check with our other senses, look left and right to make sure we are safe to cross the road and not step in front of the bus. But if you've ever had that feeling to go, oh, something really bad's about to happen, and then boom, it does, that was your GPS, knowing that something was happening before you were consciously aware of it. Now, it's not something we can turn off, but it is something we can ignore. And that's why some people are still learning how to actually listen to it, because we've spent years ignoring it, trying to be logical. But at some point in time in our lives, and it's normally when we sort of hit, not teenager anymore, that we start to listen to the inner guidance and go, you know what, my inner wisdom actually has a lot to tell me if I bothered to listen. So we find that we listen more and more to it because it's more comfortable. It's actually our essence. It's who we are. So when we start listening to it, we do get a sense of joy and gratitude and ease and comfort because it's us. It's who we really are. So it makes sense to listen to it.
Yeah, because that's sort of my goal for 2022, just sort of listening to my gut feeling more. Yeah. One of the things that I've been sort of not listening to and ignoring is refunds. So, I have sort of an education company. We help people start online businesses and sort of market their brands, etc. And, we have people come in, they tell me they want to do the work and they're like, wow, there's a lot more work than I expected. I want to change my mind after going through multiple stages of interview and using my time, and can I get a refund? Mm-hmm. And my gut feeling usually tells me, yeah, just let me just refund this person, give them their money back. It's not worth the stress. Mm-hmm. But then my logical side keeps on kicking in where it's like, if I do it now, then everyone else is going to be asking a refund. Like, we have a guarantee that says that you can't get a refund after 7 days, and I could just fight and I would most likely win. I can most likely keep the money, and like, even if I do get an angry customer and bad review, it's not too bad. But my gut feeling is like, I should just give the money back and don't worry about it. But then my logical side is stopping me for some reason.
What would happen if you increased your value, your worth, so that way you truly got paid for all the time, effort, energy you put into this company? And what would happen if your customers valued you as much as you valued yourself? Customers will only value something if you uphold your side of it, i.e. charge them. They've taken up your time, your energy, your resources, and your intellect. They deserve to pay, and you deserve to be paid. So if it clearly says in your terms and conditions that no refunds are honoured after 7 days, honour you and honour your business, or else people will walk over you. And then you'll feel incongruent with that because you've let people walk over you. A bad review is not really a bad review. A bad review is someone venting that they didn't take themselves seriously. And if they leave a bad review, there's no reason why you can't even respond to that. Sorry, you feel that way. I honour all refunds in under 7 days as per T's and C's. And not one new customer reading that would think that that's a negative review. They would think it's a negative customer.
Interesting perspective, yeah. It's like, and you're right, like my gut feeling was telling me one thing, my logical side was telling me another. But even if I followed my gut feeling, I feel like if things didn't work out, then I would have regret. Yeah, it's like, how do you then make decisions when you're confused, Kim?
Come back to your heart. My gut tells me what to do. And I've learnt to listen to it more and more over the last few years.
Last question, Kim. What is an exercise that people can use? So for example, even though I am pretty disciplined, I don't touch my phone when I wake up, I don't check social media, I sort of have no apps on my phone, I sort of have a pretty solid morning routine, but I still can get into situations where it's just a chaotic day. Like I wake up, someone's asking for a refund even though I've put in so much work to help them. I have a problem that I'm struggling to solve because something doesn't add up. I have this podcast right now and I want to quickly do some research so I'm prepared for the interview, and I'm just flustered. I'm not calm. I know there's exercise where I can take deep breaths and calm down, but maybe I just need to be more self-aware because I didn't take a deep breath this morning when that happened. I sort of just let it consume me and I was just a bit flustered. But is this journey of life just difficult and it's going to be hard, and as I go through this it will get easier? Or are there some exercises that I can actively do that's like going to make me stronger as a person?
Ultimately, it's all in the language you use, because if you call the journey difficult or you call life difficult, it will be. If you suggest that all challenges that are sent my way are for my growth, then it just reframes it so differently that whilst things are going to always happen, there's always going to be something that comes up. They don't need to be difficult. They are just something I need to overcome. And does it need to be overcome right this minute, or will it wait until 2:00 this afternoon and I'll deal with it then? Do I have to fit all of these things first thing in the morning? Can I deal with refunds at 4 p.m? Do they have to start my day that way? Do I have to start my day looking at a refund request, which is only going to set the mood for the rest of the day being a little bit lowered? So what if I allocated 4 p.m. till 5 p.m. every day to deal with those type of requests when I'm at the end of the day, and I'm not going to let the energy of those refund requests drag the rest of me down. I'm going to deal with that at 4:00. It's still within 24 hours of the refund request. No one expected it pronto 9:00 this morning. Only you did. So just allocate that time for, that's the ugly jobs. I'll put those jobs, in the 4:00 pile. And that way I can set the intention of my day for what's going to create money and create wealth and create impact, and deal with those not so fun things at this time of day.
Yeah, because I'm pretty solid at, my solution has always been building systems, meaning, okay, if negative energy comes through my emails, let's only open up my emails at a certain time. If I find myself always procrastinating, let's delete social media off my phone, unplug the TV. Oh, I find myself reinstalling things. All right, let's create a list of preventions and let's apply that list every morning as a checklist. So these are all really sort of logical solutions, and it helps a lot. But for example, this morning, let's say something just comes in randomly and then my emotions are like thrown off. How do I either, one, not get thrown off, or two, realign my sort of emotions and get it back to baseline. When that happens, obviously systems will prevent most of it from happening, but when it does happen, what's the best course of action?
Systems are certainly one way of managing it. However, it's not necessarily a way of managing you. So there's a couple of little questions I like to ask myself. Firstly, I ask myself, is it mine? And what I mean by that is if someone else's negativity or aggression or problem comes in, I ask, is it mine? And 99% of the time, it's not. And that enables me to disconnect from it, dissociate from it so it doesn't become an emotional thing. Okay, it's not mine. Secondly, can I control it? And if someone coming in with a negative review or all that sort of stuff, can you control that? Probably not. So then it just goes into the deal with it later bucket, because you're still going to deal with it, just not right now. You're going to put it in the, I'll do it later bucket, just so you don't start your day with negative stuff. But to manage yourself, because if you let yourself go down the rabbit hole of being your energy taken away because something happened out of your control, well, is it yours? And can I control it? And as soon as you realize that it's not yours, it changes so much. It means you don't dive into the story attached to it. Because if you get a refund request come in, of course you could easily dive into it and go, oh my God, what did I do wrong? And how did I fail? And all the other stories that can happen in your own head simply because 1 out of 1,000 customers has asked for a refund. And this is what humans do. Humans forget to acknowledge the 99 Google reviews that are all remarkably positive and notice the one that came through that was probably left by a troll in the first place, so therefore had actual no meaning to it, but your competitor put it out there. And then we hang on to that. Oh my God, I failed. I got a negative review. And then we take it on personally and all the rest of it. So I deal with those sort of things by just asking myself that question, is it even mine? And when someone's putting a negative review in that context, firstly, do I know this person and have I even worked with them? And then what could I have done better is a more favorable question than where did I fail? Again, that inductive thinking, really opening up the opportunity for better outcomes, better thought processes. So if you find that you are getting a reasonable list of refund requests, then it means your refund policy perhaps just needs to be more bold or more in their face to say, we are here to help you 100% of the way, but you got to do the work. If you want me to do the work for you, here's my rates. Because I'm more than happy to mentor you through it, but now it becomes a one-on-one program, not a self-guided program, and here are my rates.
Most definitely. And then how do you remind yourself to ask those questions? Because I think when I first started doing that, when I'd get into this flustered state, take a deep breath, get perspective, it's not as bad as it is. And then let's say I start asking the questions, is this my energy? Is this mine? Can I control this?
Yep.
And then I'm noticing, first I would never do that. Then I'm sort of doing it 1 out of 10 times I get flustered. Now I'm probably 4 out of 10 times I'm flustered, I'm doing those things. The remaining 6, I get too flustered to even remember to do those things. How do I get it to 10 out of 10?
Well, before it became habit for me, the brightest coloured sticky notes that money could buy and a big fat pen. So I would have each of those questions on a very bright coloured sticky note just above my computer screen. So on the wall, but just above my computer screen. So that way, if I'm working away and something comes in and I go, oh, what's that? And then this fluoro sticky note would go, hello? Is it yours? And I'd go, not mine, disconnect. And immediately the heart rate lowers because you've gone, okay, it's not actually mine. And then can I control it? No. Okay. And I'd have 3 or 4 very brightly coloured sticky notes above my computer. Now they stayed there for probably 6 to 12 months before they became a bit too tatty and didn't look so great. But before I'd trained my brain to respond to the difficulties in a much more empowering way. Now we are all human. So we're all going to have some level of tiz at some point. Yeah, we're not robots. So at some point in time, there'll be a hissy fit or a meltdown. Let's just face that. But if we can get those moments down to very occasional instead of daily, then we've made massive progress. So for me personally, it was literally physical, bright colored sticky notes. Kmart sell a packet of them for $2 in the brightest color. And I blue tacked them to the wall because sticky notes don't stick for very long. But I blue tacked them to the wall so it didn't mark the paint. And they were my reminder, because as I was, opening emails or getting messages through, I'd look at that and go, yes, got it. Is it mine? No, it's not. And it just meant that I could sit back in my heart space so much quicker than sitting down or going down the rabbit hole of getting uptight over someone else's action. Because by asking yourself that question, you can realize, hang on a moment, it's not even me that did this. This is someone else venting their frustrations because they're tech illiterate or they're learning something new and it's triggering their I'm not good enough, so I'm not smart enough. So, and this is often what happens when people start a new program. I find it when people start NLP, they're forever sending me a message, how much of this do I need to memorize? And, because of all the past conditioning that you've got to rote learn everything and regurgitate it on a test. And my first response to all of them is just calm down, calm the farm, put the book down for a moment, calm the farm. Right, regroup, now just pick up the book and read it. There is no attachment, there is no requirement, there is no judgy test, there's none of that. We're here to learn together. And then when people realize that they're not going to be judged, analysed, tested under those sort of harsher conditions, well, it's no surprise people respond way better, calm their farm, and can then give way more productive answers or way more productive sessions in their learning because they're calm. You can't learn anything frazzled. Oh God, test is tomorrow. Nah! What do you learn in that? You don't learn anything in that. So ideally, again, it comes back to that energy. Come back to that calm, balanced energy and let your life run from there.
That was an amazing solution. I think I'm definitely going to do that. What were those 4 texts? I know the first 2 was, is this mine? The next one was, can I control this?
Is it mine? Can I control it? What would happen if? And I'm pretty sure the 4th one was breathe. Breathe. Let's just remember to breathe. What would happen if is my favorite question. That is such beautiful inductive thinking. It really enables the brain to get out of its little space and think outside the way it's been thinking. Because even the way we think's been programmed into us. So if we can allow the unconscious mind to go wider than that, that's expansive.
Thank you so much for your time today, Kim. I think I was just really, I loved all the tangible, advice. I think I was surprised, you were super logical and tangible, and those actionable things that people can actually do. And you have this super high level of EQ, and it wasn't too sort of wishy-washy because you sort of really knew what you were talking about. And even as I broke it down, you're able to give tangible steps on how to do these different things. And yeah, I really appreciate your time and knowledge today.
That's been fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Where can people find more about what you're doing, Kim?
Either connect with me on Facebook or my website, drkimbrown.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you guys for listening to this episode. And yeah, hopefully you guys got some value today. Peace.